My family was very superstitious. You know, the black cat walking, don't cross that path. You have to go around, break the path on the other side. You know, hit the salt shaker, you gotta toss it over the left shoulder. Don't put new shoes on a tabletop. I'm not sure if they made some up as they were going along or if these were just sort of pushed down the line, so to speak. But we grew up in a very superstitious household.
Growing up ghostly. What would it do to you if you saw ghosts when you were still in your formative years? Hello, I'm Lawrence Chow. Welcome to Ghostly Encounters. Today we'll hear two supernatural stories that began in childhood. We'll look at those things in our upbringing that shaped the way we would respond if we ever thought we'd seen a ghost. When they felt they'd stumbled onto the spirit world, Lance Wynn and Leslie LaRocque's reactions ranged from acceptance to absolute terror. For Lance, a calm response came from a childhood spent in the warmth of a large, extended, and superstitious family.
We used to live in an old house in Kensington Market. And my grandmother, of course, she had 10 kids, so we obviously had a big family. We lived there for one generation, but prior to that, it was actually one of the original houses built in Kensington Market. I remember a lot of cold spots in the house. A lot of footsteps and creaky stairs. Now, mind you, I was young and it's a busy house, but I know that house always had weird feelings. I remember being 4 years old and walking upstairs to bed by myself, and that because our staircase, of course, you went up the first staircase, had to make the sharp left around the rail to go up to the next staircase. Well, that bedroom that I didn't like was directly at the top of the stairs. So I knew that every time I went up to bed, it made me feel like nothing else did. You know that feeling you have when you walk into a place you've never been before? Well, you take that and you feel like that every time you walk into the room. That's a bit odd. I remember getting to the top of the stairs and I was barefoot and I could feel this cold breeze come right across my feet. I don't think I had a real grasp as far as an explanation went, but I found it a bit odd that I didn't feel that breeze every time. It just seemed when I was getting ready to go to bed or at night. I don't believe it was built on any burial ground or anything like that, but the fact that the house had seen so many people and so many families come through it, I guess there had to be something still lurking in those walls. When you're in the inner city, they have a program that allows the inner city kids to get a chance to go and experience some nature and that sort of thing. So we had Island School, Toronto Island School, which is situated on Hanlon's Point. And on that island there's a lighthouse as well that is supposed to be haunted. So the teacher takes us to the lighthouse. While we're on our way, she's telling us the story of the innkeeper, J.P. Rattermill, who was the first innkeeper who was brutally murdered by some drunken soldiers for not giving up his beer. His body was dismembered and was scattered around the area of the lighthouse. So they took us to the lighthouse. Now, when you open the lighthouse door, it's a big wooden door to the lighthouse, and you open it up. Immediately to your left, there's another big door, and then the stairs, the spiral stairs that lead up to the top. Well, I think the story that initially scared us was the fact that not only does J.P. Rattermiller apparently walk the islands at night, but apparently one of the caretaker in charge opened this door that was immediately adjacent when walking the lighthouse, and what he saw inside scared him so much, turned this young 20-year-old dark-haired guy, turned his hair totally white, and he apparently never spoke again. Later that night, we were sleeping in a dorm setup, 1 or 2 in the morning, I wake up. I look around, and of course, no one's awake. Everyone's sound asleep. So I get up. But as I'm walking to the bathroom, I can hear the water running, and I hear someone's in there. So immediately I'm thinking, oh, well, that's someone else is up too. Well, that's good. Well, I walk into the washroom, and the first thing I see is caretaker. He's at the far end, and he's mopping the floor. I said to him, hi, and he said, hi, you're up pretty late. And I said, yeah. So as I'm going to the washroom, he continues mopping, and I said to him, kind of foolishly, wow, I guess you work here, eh? And he goes, yeah. I go, you've been working here a long time? And he says, yeah, I've been working here a long time. And I said, wow. And I said, have you ever been to the lighthouse? And I think to this day, I've never had anyone look at me quite the way this guy looked at me. It was fear, shock, all rolled up into one. He glared right at me, never took his eyes off me, put the mop down, and walked out the whole time looking at me as he walked by me. So that's fine. So he left, and I proceeded on my way and went back to bed. Well, the next morning we're around in the yard, and we're getting ready to leave. And I say to one of the teachers, I said, Miss, I saw the caretaker with the white hair. She said, let me check with the head caretaker to see who you might be referring to. They walk back over to me, and he says to me now, he says, what caretaker did you see? And I said, young guy, white hair, he had on blue overalls, and, just mopping the floor. And he goes, we don't have anyone with white hair, or actually anyone on staff other than me at this time. I was the only guy on staff, he said. But something strange did happen, was that this morning when I went to do my rounds, I went to go for my mop and pail, and it wasn't in the storage room where it usually is. And he said, I found it in the washroom. So, did I see a ghost? I don't know. And then I started thinking, did I dream it? No, I don't sleepwalk. I'm a light sleeper. Could I recognize this guy's face? Yes, definitely. Did he have white hair? Yeah. And I'm thinking, did I hear a door close? No. Did I even hear footsteps, although I can remember him wearing work boots? No, actually. I found it to be a little creepier later on, when you start putting the pieces together as to, what I might have seen. Probably a little more recent than that, was about 10 years ago. I moved in with a buddy of mine into a house that had been around for some 100 years. I lived on the top floor. We shared the middle floor with the living room and kitchen, and he lived in the basement. And in order to get to my bedroom, I had to walk up the stairs and then walk down the hallway. Well, on a couple of occasions, because I'm such a light sleeper, I would always hear footsteps coming to my door. Stop. That happened about 3 or 4 times. I remember being in a sleep, like I said, I'm a light sleeper, but waking right up and hearing and counting 9 footsteps each time. It was just coincidental. One night, my roommate and I were coming back home, and there was a young guy, and he was standing outside of our house looking at it. And we pulled up, and he said, hey, you guys live here? And I said, yeah. He said, who sleeps upstairs in that bedroom? And I said, I do. He said, have you heard any strange noises? And I said, as a matter of fact, I have heard a few. He said, well, because, my mother, she committed suicide in that bedroom. She hung herself. Well, I never heard any footsteps after that. But I think just hearing that made me a little leery, and I won't say scared, but I don't think I slept as soundly after that as I did prior to that. That explained quite a bit, and I think I always came to the conclusion that I don't mind living with a ghost, providing it's a pleasant ghost. That's my only requirement, so.
Why could Lance see what he saw? Certainly his superstitious family helped open him up to the possibility of ghosts. But our experts also note that both his childhood encounters took place in historically and psychically charged places, an old house that has seen many souls pass through its doors, and a famous murder scene. They suggest that what he may have experienced was a weight of psychic disturbances that sometimes push into our reality at vulnerable points, like the scary bedroom. Maybe the occurrences didn't frighten Lance because they related more to the location than to him specifically. As a child, Leslie LaRock didn't know about her own family's psychic background, but she was still fascinated by the supernatural from a young age.
I was very interested in reading about ghosts before anything had ever happened to me. And that was from an age of 7, maybe. I knew all about what they were, but I was like, how could this be? And then it happened. My mom was very welcoming. Like, she was there with me the first time something happened. My dad was very disbelieving and very, oh my God. He still doesn't really believe, even though it just came out in the past year that his mother was a psychic, supposedly. So, and I'm just finding out now that she used to read people on the streets tarot cards and see ghosts and whatever else.
Though Leslie was interested in the spirit world, nobody else in her house was. So at age 9, when the ghosts she'd been reading about seemed to leap off the pages of her beloved books, it was difficult for her to deal with the fallout.
I've always been scared of the dark. I slept with a nightlight for most of my childhood, teens, early teens, whatever. I'm usually fine if someone else is there, and it's really weird because there were people right there in the next room, but the covers were good enough. As long as the covers were over my head, I wasn't scared. They're a protection for me, like as long as I can't see it. Even if I can hear it or feel it, I can't see it, so that feels a little bit more protective. Yeah, I've always just, from a young age, been scared, and then that thing happened to me when I was 9, and since then I've always been scared. I just turned 9 and it was Christmas time, and we had gone to Mackenzie House, my mother, my sister, and I, and we were all in the living room part of the house, and there was what's called a kissing bough, and I just remember being bored and learning about, oh yeah, they had this kissing bough and people used to stand under it. That's the last thing I remember her saying before I wandered off. And I wandered off into the hallway by myself, and I looked up the stairs, and there was just this lady just kind of hanging there. And she was up on the landing, and she looks like she was sitting, but there was nothing to sit on. And she was reaching out and looking straight into my eyes. And that was what really, like, sent me off. And I screamed, and I just ran right back to my mom. And I was like, Mom! And she came out, and there was nothing there, of course. I can still see her in my head. She looked steel cold and scary and not a friendly presence. She seemed to be looking at me like, what are you doing here? I used to go to the library as a child and just read everything. Just one of the interests that I took to was ghosts and the supernatural and ESP or whatever else. Like, I believe I was open to it when it happened to me. Even though I wasn't wanting to see a ghost, I think reading about it, I was like, what are these and why do they show up to some people? you know, I think it's half of people. I read some statistic that half of people believe and half don't. And I guess that half that doesn't, I don't want them to think I'm some kind of loony, because I'm not. And it just, to know that people aren't believing me makes me kind of get my defenses up a little bit. I think the most disbelief has actually come from my own dad and sister. I remember my dad not believing me, and that really hurt. He was just like, "Oh yeah, you just made it up." I'm like, "No, I didn't make it up." He's like, "Well, it was something that you conjured in your brain." And I'm like, "No, I didn't." You know, it's been like that over like the years, and caused a couple of fights. I think anyone could possibly see them if they're open to it, and if they are in the right place at the right time. Like maybe 4 years ago, and I was just visiting a friend that lived, I think it was on Degrassi Street. I think it was, pretty sure. These old Victorian homes, and she lived on the main floor with her roommate. So there was, I think, a back bedroom, the bathroom, a really big, huge kitchen, and then she lived in the front room. And I went to the washroom, and I was just washing my hands, and I looked into the mirror, and I saw a white, when I say figure, it just looked like a white fuzzy thing to me. Passed by in the window behind me, and just kind of like that, as if it was walking by. And then I was just like, oh, not again. And I think at this point I was just like, I don't want to see any more ghosts. I don't want anything more to happen to me. I'm done with it. I ran out to my friend, and I was crying, and I grabbed her and just, "Come with me, oh my God," you know, and I was freaking out. And I stuck my head out the side door, and just to make sure, because I was positive that it was really, really high off the ground, and I was, you know, there's no way somebody just walked by there. There's no way somebody just walked by there. It would have made the person like 9 feet tall or something. Was it a cloud? Like I was thinking maybe it was a cloud. There's no way it's a cloud. It's like late at night, and it's like totally like solid white kind of, even though it was see-through, it was solid. I mean, they can't hurt you, it's like I think later, but during the time when it happens, it's just a shock. Like you're not expecting it at all. I definitely think seeing the ghost made me realize there's something beyond. But not only that, like, what is a ghost doing? You know, what realm are they in? And, you know, I don't want to be a ghost. I don't want to become a spirit. I want to hopefully go on to the real afterlife. One night when I was in a cottage in the summer, I guess, I don't know what happened, but we hadn't yet gone to sleep. All of a sudden, clang, clang, things were being moved around, all this stuff out in the kitchen. And the door was closed, and we're just like, oh my God, what's going on out there? And then my friend was convinced it was my other friend who was in the other bedroom with her boyfriend in the kitchen. We're just like, oh my God, yeah, was it her? Should we like go look, you know? And I think we waited until the noise had stopped for a couple minutes because we were too scared. And then I opened the door and there's nobody there. And then that's when I went right out and I was just like, you know, where are you? Like, to my friend. And I went to her room and I was like, were you just in the kitchen? And she's like, no. And I was like, oh my God. And yeah, so I just went back to bed. I don't think I'm as scared the older I get. I guess just maturing and realizing that, you know, I can't control this, even they can't hurt me. I don't think it's affected me terribly. And I wouldn't say I'm terribly scared of something else happening, but I just don't want it to keep happening. It's still quite scary, but I'm willing to confront it. I'm willing to, and that's another thing, I guess, seeing these things or having these things happen to me, I think it's made me a lot more brave. That's a positive thing.
In both Lance and Leslie's stories, the ghosts themselves are neutral, if a little alarming in the case of the Mackenzie house. But while Lance viewed his experiences in a mainly positive light, Leslie was terrified. What makes the supernatural so negative to Leslie? It's not just the encounter itself. It's the vehement reaction of her father and sister. She is torn between an apparent familial ability to see ghosts and her family's anger with her for insisting they exist. Adding to her confusion is a fear that some might label her as crazy. This stigma is partly why she doesn't want to see any more spirits, but it loses its power as Leslie becomes less afraid of the supernatural and of what skeptics might think. On the other hand, it's an interesting contrast that the tradition of superstition in Lance's household prepared him so well for the experiences he reports.
I think that strange things and unexplained things, once you get exposed to things like that, you sort of set different parameters. Well, you know what, if the ghost is friendly, then that's okay. Where some people are like, if they can't explain it, then they'll panic and they'll flip out, sort of thing. But I think that sort of prepared me for the fact that there are things that are unexplained, and it's just the way the world is.
I don't think I'm going to go search for them, but it's very big, kind of pull to do it, but I never really follow through. Maybe if I get totally not scared, I would try it again. But I know I've seen these things. I know these things have happened, so don't disbelieve me, That's my attitude. It's just your loss.
Growing up ghostly. What would it do to you if you saw ghosts when you were still in your formative years? Hello, I'm Lawrence Chow. Welcome to Ghostly Encounters. Today we'll hear 2 supernatural stories that began in childhood. We'll look at those things in our upbringing that shaped the way we would respond if we ever thought we'd seen a ghost. When they felt they'd stumbled onto the spiritual
houses built in Kensington Market. I remember a lot of cold spots in the house, a lot of footsteps and creaky stairs. Now, mind you, I was young and it's a busy house, but I know that house always had weird feelings. I remember being 4 years old and walking upstairs to bed.
World. Lance Wynn and Leslie LaRocque's reactions range from acceptance to absolute terror. For Lance, a calm response came from a childhood spent in the warmth of a large, extended, and superstitious family.
We used to live in an old house in Kensington Market, and my grandmother, of course, she had 10 kids, so we obviously had a big family. We'd lived there for 1 generation, but prior to that, it was actually one of the original. My family was very superstitious. The black cat walking, don't cross that path. You have to go around, break the path on the other side. Hit the salt shaker, you gotta toss it over the left shoulder. Don't put new shoes on a tabletop. I'm not sure if they made some up as they were going along, or if these were just sort of pushed down the line, so to speak. But I grew up in a very superstitious house by myself, and that's because our staircase, of course, you went up the first staircase, had to make the sharp left around the rail to go up to the next staircase. Well, that bedroom that I didn't like was directly at the top of the stairs, so I knew that every time I went up to bed, it made me feel like nothing else did. You know that feeling you have when you walk into a place you've never been before? Well, you take that and you feel like that